Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's glad to see everyone here. It's, we are very excited about this workshop. And, as we know, we all have a lot of questions, a lot of doubts regarding prayers, which is one of the most important obligations upon us. And inshallah, we'll be able to have many of our questions, doubts, etc., clarified by Sayyid. Just some upcoming announcements is we should be starting a class soon after the winter break regarding aqaid. I encourage everyone to sign up. It is going to be on Tuesday evenings. Encourage everyone to join and take advantage of the hard work that Sayyid is doing and enlighten ourselves. Inshallah, a couple requests that if the kids are more than welcome to be here if they are going to be listening. However, if you find that the kids are disturbing or, not letting Sayyid finish and he's getting distracted, of course, they can go into the musalla area and try to keep it a little low. So I would request the parents just watch out a little bit. Make sure that if you need tea, coffee, anything, help yourselves during. It's kind of informal, but however, we would like the voices to be as low as possible. And anything else I'm missing? Inshallah, I think with that, if anything comes up, we are going to, yes, there are cards and pens and pencils as well. If anybody would have any questions, any doubts they want to clarify, they don't want to talk in front of everyone, understand some of these questions could be quite, personal regarding our prayers and stuff, and if you are reluctant to ask in front of everyone, there will be a volunteer in the ladies as well as in the men. If they want, they can take advantage of these cards and write down their questions and pass on. With that, I invite Sayyid to get started with this very important workshop. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد. Respected brothers and sisters, I thank you all for joining us on this very important workshop, this very important program that we've been meaning to have for a while now. And it's just a lot of programs have been coming up, but alhamdulillah we're able to have it. And I believe that this is a very important program where we will be able to talk about prayer, the importance of Salah, and we will discuss issues. We will discuss how to pray from A to Z. And feel free to ask any questions that you have. Feel free to express yourself, because Salah is the most important investment that you have in this dunya. Because it's your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If your Salah, if your prayer is invalid or not accepted, or there's a problem with your prayer, that means there's a problem with your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So make sure that you are fulfilling your prayer correctly and you are doing your prayer in the correct format. One of the companions of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he comes to the Imam and he asks the Imam, teach me how to pray. And the Imam discovers that this man, he does not know how to pray. And the Imam says, it is sad that a person becomes 60 years old and he does not know how to pray. And the man, he said, but I learned, I tried to. لَقَدْ قَرَأْتُ كِتَابَ حَرِيز. I read the book of Hariz, one of the companions of the Imam. The Imam, then he goes up and he starts praying in front of him. And he mentions exactly how the Imam prayed. So inshallah, tonight we will be going over the we'll be going over the prayer, and we're having a prayer workshop, inshallah, to address and talk about the importance of prayer, the prerequisites of the prayer, when does prayer become wajib, and what do I have to do to prepare myself for prayer? What are the conditions to enter into the prayer? And then what are the steps of the prayer? What are the steps that if someone does not perform, the prayer becomes invalid? And what are steps that if someone makes a mistake in, then they will be able to fix it when in the prayer? And how do I fix my prayer? If, for example, I realize there's a mistake was done, what do I have to do to fix it? And then we'll also talk about Salat al-Qadha, make-up prayers, and inshallah many questions will come up. I ask that if you have a question on your mind, there's these note cards here, pick them up, write them down. There's a big chance that your question is going to be answered in the next slide probably. So if the question was not answered, then inshallah around in an hour from now, we're going to have a break. We're going to bring some pizza, inshallah. And then we'll be able to ask more questions, and then we'll continue seeing how far we've gone. So, inshallah, to begin and to learn, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah says in the Quran, talking about Salah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Itlu ma uhiya ilayka min al-kitab wa aqim as-salat. إن الصلاة تنهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. When we look at the Quran, we see that the most important obligation upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, upon the Muslims, and something that all of the prophets, they came before Rasulullah, they ordered their people. What is it? Salah. What does Salah mean? Salah means connection with God. Sila. You know when you say Silat Rahim, when you're connected with your family. Silat Rahim is something that is very important in Islam. Qati'at al-Rahim is haram. Where Salah is what connects you with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And my dear brothers and sisters, the fact that we can pray to God is a privilege to us, where we, the abd, the slave, the servant, the one who is nothing, has 5 times a day an appointment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your Lord, the most powerful being, the creator of this universe, the one who has given you everything, has given you an appointment to speak with him 5 times a day. Which president gives you an appointment? Which king? Which leader? So when you're praying, God doesn't need our prayers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't benefit from my prayers. I am the biggest beneficiary of my prayer. And when I pray, I am the one who will benefit from the salah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Itlu ma uhiya ilayka min al-kitab. Recite the book that has been revealed upon you and establish prayer. Inna as-salata tanha an al-fahsha'i wal-munkar. Prayer is a cleanser. It removes the evil, the immorality, the wrongdoing. Now, of course, this is if we're praying correctly. There's a lot of people that pray and their prayer does not help them. And then, وَلَذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمْ مَا تَصْنَعُونَ. In another verse, Allah says in the Quran, أَقِمِ الصَّلَاةِ. Allah talks about, we have 5 prayers, but there are 3 times of prayer that are mentioned in the Quran. أَقِمِ الصَّلَاةِ لِدُلُوكِ الشَّمْسِ إلى غسق الليل أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس إلى غسق الليل وقرآن الفجر إن قرآن الفجر كان مشهودا. Observe the prayer from the decline of the sun until the darkness of the night at noon, and then the darkness of the night, and then the prayer of the dawn. إن قرآن الفجر كان مشهودا. The angels, they witness the prayers of the morning, because you have the angels, there's 2 shifts, the night shift and the morning shift. So they all, both of them, they witness the prayer. Go to the next slide, please. So here, the prayer in hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi says, مثل الصلوات الخمس كمثل نهر جار عذب على باب أحدكم يغتسل فيه كل يوم 5 مرات فما يبقى لذلك من الدنس. Rasulullah, he gives the Muslims a very beautiful example. He says, imagine if you have a stream of water in front of your house and you go and you dip yourself, you go and you wash yourself in that stream 5 times a day. How clean are you going to be? The Muslims, they said, you're going to be very clean. Rasulullah said, this is exactly what prayer does to a person. It cleanses the soul. In another hadith, Rasulullah says, ما بين المسلم وبين الكافر إلا أن يترك الصلاة الفريضة متعمدا. Here, this is where we understand that prayer is the most important of all obligations. And this is why we know that the Islamic ruling, لا تسقط الصلاة بحال. See, if for example you became ill, you can't fast during the month of Ramadan, you don't fast in the month of Ramadan. You come and you give sadaqah. If you can't give zakat, you can't give charity because you don't have enough money, you don't have to. It's not wajib upon you. You can't go to Hajj. Hajj is not wajib upon you. Salah, is there a time in your life that Salah does not become wajib upon you? No. Salah is always wajib. لا تسقط الصلاة بحال. Meaning there's no circumstance that a person can go through in life that Salah is not obligatory upon them. It's always wajib. If I'm able to stand, I'm healthy, I stand and pray. If I can't, I sit and pray. If I can't sit, I lay down and pray. They even, in the books of fiqh, they talk about salat al-ghariq. If I'm drowning and I realize that I haven't prayed yet, here, whatever I do, just something to, as if you're praying. Meaning that the salah is never, there's never an instance that salah does not become obligatory upon you. So here, Rasulullah says, مَا بَيْنَ الْمُسْلِمِ وَبَيْنَ الْكَافِرِ. The difference between a Muslim and a kafir, a believer and non-believer, is neglecting the salah on purpose. So this is how important it is. In another hadith from Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, and also from Rasulullah, he says, الصلاة عمود الدين مثلها كمثل عمود القسطاط مثلها كمثل عمود الفسطاط. The prayer is like the pillar, the foundation of your religion, of your faith. Just like a tent, a building, it needs to have a foundation to be able to stand. What keeps your faith standing is the salah. So there's no instance that salah is not wajib upon you. It is always obligatory. Go to the next slide. Now, what are the prerequisites of salah? When does the prayer become obligatory upon a person? First is the prayer becomes obligatory upon a person at the age of taklif. Age of taklif is when you become an adult, not 18 years old. An adult in Islam, different, it varies. It's at the age of puberty, at the age of maturity. When you become mature, then everything becomes wajib upon you. You become accountable in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So at the age of taklif, at the age of maturity, spiritual maturity, then salah becomes wajib. Just like zakat, just like hajj, just like khums, just like everything else, everything becomes wajib at the age of taklif. Now, the age of taklif, according to, for men, it is at the signs of puberty. When a young man, a child grows and the signs of puberty begin to show, you have some hair starts showing, the voice, all of that, signs of puberty start to show in a person, that is when the man, salah becomes wajib upon them. And the imams of the Ahlul Bayt, they instructed their companions to teach their kids to pray even before that. Some people, they come and they wait until the age of bulugh, and then they don't know. Right now, at the age of bulugh, now they want to come and they want to learn. No, the imam, he says, teach your children how to pray at age 7. Boy or girl, teach them at age 7 and let them pray with you at the age of 7. For girls, there's a difference in opinion. The majority of the fuqaha, the majority of the scholars, they say that the salah becomes wajib upon a female at the age of 9 Hijri, 9 in the Hijri calendar, which is about 8 years, 8 months, and a couple days. That's when it becomes wajib. Now, there's another group of fuqaha, they say also at the age of puberty as well, but ihtiyat, whether it's for men or women, we say, let's follow the hadith, let's do what is safe, let us teach our children to pray at the age of 7, 8, so that once it becomes wajib upon them, they are fully ready. And to teach our children the importance of having a relationship, a healthy relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the first sign that salah has become wajib upon you, age of taklif. Then prayers, as we know, there are 5 times of the prayer. The Quran mentions 3. أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس إلى غسق الليل وقرآن الفجر إن قرآن الفجر كان مشهودا. So, say a person became mukallaf at night and the next day they have to start praying. When is the first prayer that is wajib upon everyone? Salatul Fajr, the dawn prayer, the morning prayer. These are all different names. Salatul Subuh, Salatul Fajr. These are all names for that 2 rak'ah prayer that is prayed in the morning. When is the time of Salatul Fajr? Salatul Fajr is at the beginning of dawn. They call it Al-Fajr As-Sadiq. At night, the sky is pitch black. Then what they say, see right now, because there's so much light, we don't get to see. If you go out in the desert, you get to actually see Al-Fajr As-Sadiq. You see a light, first a vertical light. It comes out for a very, a couple seconds probably or minutes, and then it disappears, and then a horizontal light, it starts coming up. That horizontal light that fills the sky, the sun is not out yet. The sun's going to be out in probably an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, depends where you are. But you see that first sign of light, that is called Fajr. That is the time of Fajr. At that time, Salah becomes wajib upon you. You could get up and you could pray. Now you have all the way until sunrise. Once the sun rises, then Salat al-Fajr becomes qada. So this is why, right now you could look up on Google, what time is sunrise in my area. If you don't know exactly when is Fajr, you could find out when sunrise is and just pray half an hour, 40 minutes before that, and you'll be fine. You're going to be certain that you're going to be in the time of Fajr. You can't pray before the time. So say someone is tired, they say, I want to sleep and I know I'm not going to wake up for Fajr. Let me just pray the Fajr prayer right now. Can I do that? Can't do that. You can't pray until the time of prayer has come. That's when you could pray. So this is the time of the Fajr, from dawn all the way until sunrise. It becomes qada at sunrise. Then you have the Dhuhr prayer, the noon prayer. And this is noon. When we say noon here in America, people think we're talking about 12 o'clock, right? Noon, we're talking about the solar noon, where the sun has reached the highest position, and then it starts going down. So the sun, when it's at its highest point, and before they used to be able to put, like a pole, and then they see the shadow. The shadow, it gets less. It might disappear in some places in the world, and then it starts increasing again. That moment is the moment of noon, the moment where the sun is at its highest position. At that time, Salat al-Dhuhr becomes wajib. Salat al-Fajr is 2 rak'at. Salat al-Dhuhr is 4 rak'ats. And then we have another prayer which is after. That is Salat al-Asr, the salah that is done in the afternoon. When does the time of Salat al-Asr begin? The time of Salat al-Asr begins about 4 minutes after Dhuhr prayer. 4 minutes after noontime. So those first 4 minutes, or those first 3 to 4 minutes, are specific to Salat al-Dhuhr. So once you finish Salat al-Dhuhr, as soon as you say Allahu Akbar, the time of Salat al-Asr has begun. Now, today we see some of the Sunni Muslims, they pray, they wait about an hour, maybe a little bit more after Dhuhr prayer and after Maghrib prayer to pray the Isha. But the Prophet, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, sometimes he used to delay it, and sometimes he used to pray right after. He used to combine the prayers. They asked him, why are you combining the prayers? He tells them to make it easy on you. I want Islam to be easy on you. So it's a lot easier to do 3 sets of prayers versus 5 sets of prayers. So, and the Quran mentions 3 times. أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس إلى غسق الليل وقرآن الفجر إن قرآن الفجر كان مشهودا. Now, when does the time of Dhuhr and the time of Asr end? With sunset. At sunset, at Maghrib time, with Maghrib time, the time of the Salat, the Dhuhr and Asr ends. But the time of Dhuhr ends 4 minutes before the time of Asr. Because those last 4 minutes before Maghrib time, those are specific to Salat al-Asr. Just like the first 4 minutes after Dhuhr time were specific to Salat al-Dhuhr. So Salat al-Dhuhr becomes late about 4 minutes before Maghrib time, because those next 4 minutes, that is a time that is allocated specifically for Asr prayers. Okay? Now, at Maghrib, when is Maghrib? This is also an issue of disagreement amongst the scholars and amongst Muslims as well. The time of Maghrib for us, the majority opinion, and this is because we have hadith from Imam Sadiq and the other Imams, they say ذهاب الحمرة المشرقية. You know, when the sun is setting, you see redness in the sky. In the west, the sun sets in the west, it's going to be light out for quite some time because the sun is setting on that side, so it's still light. But on the east, on the eastern horizon, it starts getting darker and darker and darker. But before it gets dark, it's red. The sky is red. Once the redness in the east disappears, once you look outside in the eastern horizon, you see that there's no redness in the sky, that is the time of Maghrib. So here, depending on where we are, depends on where you are in the globe, the time of Maghrib changes. In some places, for example, in Antarctica versus places at the equator or some places else, it will vary. Here, where we are, scholars say about 15 minutes after sunset. About 13 to 15 minutes after sunset, once the sun sets. So you could go and look up what time is sunset today in my area. Count 15 minutes later, 13 to 15 minutes later, also depending if you're in the summer or in the winter. It changes, because in the summer the days are longer. You're going to have probably around closer to probably 17 minutes, 16, 17 minutes. In the winter, probably 12 minutes to 13 minutes because the day is shorter. So that is the time of Maghrib prayer. As soon as that time kicks in, you can pray the Maghrib prayer. The Maghrib prayer is 3 rak'ahs, inshallah we will explain them. Then as soon as you say Allahu Akbar, after the Maghrib prayer, begins the time of Isha prayer. Isha prayer is 4 rak'ahs. Now, this time continues all the way until midnight. What time is midnight? What time is midnight? It's not 12 o'clock, no. Yes. It's halfway between sunset and sunrise and Fajr. That is the time of the midnight, Salat al-Layl. Sometimes it is 11:30. Sometimes, depending where you are, it's after 12. It could be after 12. It depends where you are. So that is the time of midnight. It's not 12 o'clock. Just like noon is not 12. Noon is the time of the solar noon. So, as we mentioned, also, Salat al-Maghrib becomes qada about 4 minutes before midnight. And the last 4 minutes are allocated specifically for Salat al-Isha. Okay, now we will go to the next slide. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So we mentioned that the first prerequisite of prayer was taklif. You have to become baligh for salah to become obligatory upon you. The second is al-waqt, time. If you prayed before time, you have to repeat that prayer. And the third is qibla. One of the prerequisites of prayer is qibla. What is the qibla? Qibla is the direction towards Mecca, towards the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Kaaba that was built by Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. And all Muslims have to pray towards the qibla. We are buried towards the qibla. When we slaughter our animals to eat, to make it halal, it has to be in the direction of the qibla. So these are some of the conditions. And the qibla in North America, where we are, America, Canada, qibla is which direction? Northeast. Before, Muslims, about 50, 60 years ago, when they came here, they used to pray east. But now, even when you see the airplane, if you're going to the Middle East, the airplane, when it flies, it doesn't fly east. How does it fly? Flies northeast, because the earth is a globe. And the shortest line is to go northeast. So this is why we're praying northeast. That's the shortest line. Just because we look at the map and we see Mecca is to the east of us, but if you were to look at it as a globe, and if you were to open the globe, you see that the shortest distance is northeast. And that is the way the airplanes are flying right now. How can you tell the qibla? Sometimes, okay, we said northeast. So look at the sun, where it's setting, where the sun is. You could tell sometimes which way is east, which way is west. You pray northeast. Or you go to a masjid. You see there's a mihrab. You see a group of Muslims praying that way. Then this is enough information. You go to a Muslim cemetery. You see the graves. They're in the direction of the qibla. That could be enough of a clue for you. You use technology. Right now everyone has a phone. Use technology and it will show you the direction of the qibla. Now, if you're stuck in a place and you don't know, there's no way for you to tell, then you would have to pray in two directions, or in more than two directions. But the minimum is to pray into two directions, because if you have a hint that salah, for example, the Kaaba would be this way, then you just go with what you have in your mind, whatever idea that you have. But if you have no idea whatsoever, then you would have to pray in multiple directions to guarantee that you have prayed towards the qibla. Now, if for example, the qibla was this way and I was praying this way, about less than 90 degrees, less than 90 degrees, or up to 90 degrees away from the qibla, it would be okay. If later on you realized that I was praying, for example, qibla was this way, I was praying this way, it's okay. As long as you're not more than 180 degrees, more than 180 degrees away from the qibla, then it would be okay. But at the time, you have to, if you discover that you were, at the time of prayer, you discover it's wrong, you have to fix it. You have to change yourself during the prayer. But let's say I used to pray, for example, 5 years ago, this is the direction I used to pray. If it's more than 180 degrees, the salah needs to be repeated. If it's less than 180 degrees, then it does not need to be repeated. Okay, go to the next slide, please. Okay, so now another prerequisite of salah. We said the time, we said the qibla. Now, at-tahur. Tahur is purity. You have to be pure. You have to be tahir. You have to be in a state of ritual purity. Does this mean that I go and I wipe my hands with sanitizer and then I'm pure? No. We're talking about spiritual purity. We're not talking about just my hands are clean. One time I was doing wudu and someone tells me, why are you doing wudu? Just go wipe your hands with hand sanitizer and that's enough. I told him, no, this is ta'abbud. This is ibadah. Ibadah, meaning it's an act of worship. I'm worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through this way. So there are certain things that are called hadath al-asghar, and there are certain things that are called hadath al-akbar. The hadath al-asghar, the minor cause, requires a person to just perform wudu. You perform wudu and that's it. You could go and pray. But there are other things that a wudu is not enough. It requires a ghusl. It requires a shower, a ritual shower to be performed in order for you to pray. And this is very important, my dear brothers and sisters, because the tahara, the purity, is a shart. It's a condition in an accepted prayer. If my prayer is 100%, but my wudu or my ghusl has an error, I might have to redo my prayers. I might have to redo my prayers. So this is very important that we know how to do, and we teach our children how to do the ghusl and how to perform the wudu. So what is the hadath al-asghar? Things that require wudu. Urinating, defecating, passing gas, sleeping, and istihadha in some cases. Istihadha for the female, that is one of the types of the menstruation that would require wudu. So these are the things that require the wudu in order to pray. So whenever you use the restroom, you can't just leave the restroom and go to pray. You have to go and do wudu. And you have to make sure that there's no urine, there's no najasa on your body. Some people, they do wudu, but they go to the bathroom and they're standing in the bathrooms outside in public. Then there's najasa on their body. The only way to wash urine, the only way to tahir yourself, to cleanse yourself from urine, men or women, is through water. You can't just wipe yourself and say that's enough for me. No. You need to use water, even to have a small amount of water, a small cup, even a drip of water, that would be sufficient to purify yourself. You just wash the place that became najas with the urine, and that would be enough. So this is very important. Maybe I did my wudu correctly, but when I used the bathroom, I didn't tahir myself. I didn't clean myself with water. My salah is not going to be accepted. There's a problem with tahur. So you need to make sure that you wash yourself. And here, the public bathrooms, there's no water. So you need to figure out a way. Take a water bottle with you, go somewhere where you could figure out how to purify yourself. Of course, with the only time you would need water after using the bathroom is only after urinating. After the defecating, wiping would be enough. It's not, you don't need to use water for that, even though water is better, but it's not necessary. But for the urine, the only way to purify yourself after that is through water. So these are the things that require wudu. Why is sleeping? Why do I need to do wudu after I sleep? Because when you sleep, sometimes the narration says when your sleep is so deep where you don't know what you're doing. So you might have done something that might have made you lose your wudu. So this is why you need to do wudu after you sleep. Now, there's something called hadath al-akbar. If this happened, wudu is not sufficient. You need to go and do ghusl. You need to go and wash yourself. I'm going to explain how to do wudu and ghusl. These things that require ghusl, one is janaba, after a sexual relationship. Hayd, nifas, and istihada. These all apply for women in the menstruation. And touching a deceased body. If a person passes away and the body has gone cold, a few minutes later the body goes cold, you touch the body, you need to do ghusl. You need to do ghusl in order to pray. Mass al-mayyit, ghusl mass al-mayyit. And there's another one, it's a hadath al-akbar, but there's no going back from it. They say death is hadath al-akbar. When a person passes away, they won't be able to wash themselves, but someone has to wash them, ghusl al-mayyit, and then do salat al-mayyit, and then bury them. That is also called al-hadath al-akbar. That is one of the major causes for ghusl to become wajib. Okay, next slide please. Okay, steps to performing the ghusl. So we mentioned for hadath al-akbar you need to do ghusl. For hadath al-asghar you need to do wudu. There's two types of ghusl. If some of you have a pool in your house, or you have a large tub of water where there's enough water in there that is above kur, meaning The water there's a large amount of water in there and it's water. This is called ghusl irtimasi. You do the niyyah, I dive in this, I get in this water, qurbatan ila Allah ta'ala, seeking nearness of God. I want to do ghusl, and you go in the water. You put your whole body in the water, and there should be nothing blocking the water from reaching your skin. This is enough. This is called ghusl irtimasi. You've done ghusl, you just you dip yourself in the water, and this is enough for the ghusl. There's another type of ghusl. This is called ghusl tartibi. Tartibi means step-by-step ghusl. What is this? Also, because it's an act of ibadah, because it's a worship, how does it begin? What's the first step in any worship? Niyyah, intention. It's an act of worship. You need to have the intention. What is the intention? The intention is that I need to know what I'm doing, and I need to know that I'm doing this for God. I'm not taking a shower because it's hot outside. I'm not taking a shower because I want to clean my body. I'm taking a shower because it's a form of ibadah. It's a form of worship. Now, if I happen to clean my body with it, if it happens to be hot outside, that's another thing. That's okay. But as long as I know I'm doing this for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Same with the wudu. I'm not just washing my face because it's hot. I'm washing my face because it's an act of worship. So niyyah, and some people, they have the idea that niyyah means I need to stand in the shower and I start talking in the shower. No, you don't need to do all of that. As long as you know in your heart what you're doing, who you're doing it for, that's sufficient. You don't need to come and utter the words. You don't need to say certain things. As long as you know who this is for and what this is sufficient. So you do the niyyah, that's the intention. Then the whole head has to be washed. The head has to be washed, the ears, everything. It needs to all be washed. And then the neck as well, the head and the neck, all of it needs to be washed. You have to make sure water reaches everywhere. If you have a band-aid, if you have something on your body, you have to remove it in order to do the ghusl. And then you wash the right side of the body. The right side of the body, the whole right side of the body, it needs to be washed. From all the way up, from the neck, shoulders, the side, to your feet. Water has to reach everywhere. And then the left side of the body. As long as you are certain that water has reached everywhere, that's sufficient. You don't need to scrub or do all this stuff. That is sufficient. As long as you saw that water has reached everywhere in your body. So this is very important. Making sure water reaches everywhere in your body. Sometimes you might have a sticker, you might have something that is blocking the water from reaching the body. You have to make sure you remove that. If I did a ghusl and then I got out of the shower and then I realized, oh, I had forgotten something, I need to go and redo the ghusl. So you need to make sure that you remove anything that is blocking, anything that acts as a barrier from the water reaching your body and your nails as well. Your nails are a part of your body. Your nails are a part of your hand. Your nails are a part of your toes. You have to make sure. Sometimes there is a nail polish. Nail polish, it acts as a barrier between the water reaching the nails. And the nails are a part of your hand. The nails are a part of your toes. So you need to make sure that that is removed. This is one point. Another point, muwalat is not necessary in ghusl. Say for example, I went in the shower and I was washing my head. Now I want to shampoo my head and I want to massage my neck and I want to do all these things in the shower. I could. I don't need to rush right away to the next step and then rush to the left side of the body. Then I start washing the right side of the body. Then I take the shampoo and I start washing that's okay. Muwalat is not necessary. In the wudu, muwalat is necessary. Muwalat meaning you have to be continuous. So in wudu, once you start washing your face, you have to go to the hand right away. You can't go and answer a phone. But in ghusl, you're washing your body, you got a phone call. You came out, and then you're, hey, salam, how are you, what's up? Yeah, let's meet for dinner. And then you come, and then you come and you wash your right side of the body. That's totally okay. But in the wudu, muwalat is necessary. It's an act of worship. You need to do it one right after the other. So now, this is the ghusl. Now, the wajib ghusl. So we mentioned the janaba, the hayd, the istihada, the nifas. These types of aghsal, they are sufficient for wudu. So say I did the ghusl, now I got out of the shower, I could go and Allahu Akbar and pray. I don't need to do wudu again. I don't need to do wudu. The mustahab ghusl, some fuqaha, they say, some scholars, they say, some of them, they suffice. Other scholars, they say some don't suffice. So here you need to go and double check. So for example, for the majority of the scholars, ghusl al-jumu'ah, taking the shower, the ritual shower on Friday, they say, the majority of them, they say that it suffices for wudu. You don't need to do wudu after you come out of ghusl al-jumu'ah. Some, the ghusl of ihram, for example, when you go and you do the ghusl to enter into the state of ihram, you don't need to do wudu after. But there are some ghusl, maybe the narration of that ghusl is not strong enough, so the scholar says that, you know what, I'm not sure, do wudu just in case. This is all keeping in mind that you have not done anything after you left the shower. Say someone, they did the ghusl and then they urinated in the shower. Now they need to go and do wudu because they did something that will break the wudu. So as long as you have not done anything to break the tahara, you could continue with that ghusl. But if you did something that will invalidate the tahara, then you need to do the wudu. Okay? So now this is the ghusl. Step to performing ghusl. Now we go to the next slide, please. The steps to performing the wudu. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah says in the Quran, in Surah 5, verse 6, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين. O believers, when you rise up for prayer, wash your faces and your hands to the elbows and wipe your feet to the ankles. So here is the wudu. Wudu, we mentioned, if you have done hadath al-asghar. So we have to do wudu probably multiple times every day. For every prayer you might need to do wudu. Ghusl you might not need to do. Maybe some time will pass, you don't need to do ghusl. But the wudu you have to do for every prayer. So this is why it's very important that we know how to perform the wudu. Now, how does the wudu begin? The first step of wudu is what? What's the first step of any ibadah we mentioned? The niyyah, the intention. You're not just washing your face because it's hot outside. You're not just washing your face because you feel hot or you just want to go and clean your face. No, you're doing the wudu because it's an act of ibadah, because it's an act of worship. So this is what it is. This is what the niyyah is. Second, you have to begin by washing the face. What is the face? The face is from the hairline, starting from the hairline all the way to the chin, and this is the face. Where the ears are, that's not the face anymore. This is all the face. This is the face. This is the face of a person. So you have to make sure that you wash all of that. So what do? You do the niyyah, and you don't need a lot of water in the wudu. Same with ghusl, you don't need a lot of water. Some people, they waste so much water. It's haram. It's an act of ibadah and you're spending 40 minutes in the shower. Or the water tap is running and you're just letting the water go. This is haram. It's an act of worship. You open the water and you put some water in your hand. You take a cup of water in your hand, and you put it on your face, and you make sure that water reaches everywhere in your face, from the hairline, where the hairline is supposed to be, and you go all the way down. You make sure you rub all around. You make sure that water reaches everywhere, between the eyes, here and there. Or sometimes you have something when you wake up, you might have something that is probably blocking the water. Clean your eyes and make sure that water reaches everywhere. Now, you can take water one time, and then you could take water a second time. A second time to make sure that you got enough water. You take water a second time and you do this again. Can you take water a third time? No. You can't take water a third time. If you take water a third time and you put it on your face, the wudu becomes batil. Once is okay. It might be sufficient once. If once is not sufficient, you could go a second time. Third time, you can't do. Okay, now you've made sure water has reached everywhere. You made sure that you washed the whole face. Now, what's the next step? The washing of the right. Washing of the right arm. Beginning with above the elbows. Because Allah says in the Quran, إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَاغْسُلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ. Wash your face. وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ. This is the mirfaq. This is called the mirfaq, the elbows. So you have to make sure that you go above the elbow so that you guarantee that the whole elbow is washed. Some people, they're raising their shirt up and they don't go, they just come here. My elbow is here. You have to make sure that the whole elbow is washed. So you come a little bit above the elbow and you take the water and you put it, and then you have to go down. Our Sunni brothers and sisters, how do they do it? They come like this. They come from the tips all the way to the elbow. We go like this. You have to come up to the bottom. You don't go from down to up. So you have to take the water and then you have to make sure you go down. You can't do this where you bring the water up. You have to take it, you go down, and then you lift your hand and you go down again. And you lift it and you go down again. You can't go like this. Okay? So you have to make sure that you get water everywhere on your arm. As I mentioned, some of the scholars, the only scholar that I know is Sayyid Fadlallah, he says the nail polish does not come in between the wudu, because he doesn't see that the nails are a part of the hand, meaning the nails don't need to be washed. This is only him. All the other scholars, the majority of the other scholars, or all of them, they say that the nails are a part of your hand. So if you have nail polish on, you have to make sure that you remove it. Now, I don't know, some of the sisters, they say there's a halal nail polish. If there is a type of nail polish where you know for sure, you are certain that the water will penetrate it and it will touch your nails, then that's fine. But that's between you and God. If you are certain, then go ahead and use it. But if you're not certain, then don't. Because you don't want to risk your salah. You don't want to risk your salah. And nail polish could be haram from another aspect. It could be zina. It could be a type of makeup where you're going out, it's attracting negative attention, so you don't want to have to deal with that. So this is, you could take water once, you keep washing, you keep going, you took water once and you're doing this. You could take water a second time. Are you allowed to take water a third time? No. Once, twice is okay. Now you go to the left arm. You go to the left arm, you take with your right, and you do the same process. You make sure water has reached everywhere. You could do it once, you could do it a second time. You make sure water has reached everywhere. Some people, they get lazy. They go like this and that's it. No. And some people, they do this. They say, my hand was already wet when I was washing my face, so I just come up to here, up to my elbows. They don't go all the way down. No, you have to make sure you go all the way down, even though your hand was already wet, but now you're doing an act of ibadah, which is washing the whole hand. You have to make sure that you're washing it. This is a common mistake. Some people, they come, they do it here, because they say, my hand was already wet, I don't need to get it wet again. No, you have to make sure you go everywhere, all over, okay? So you do that a second time. Now, you have to turn off the faucet. That's it. You don't have anything to do with the water anymore. You don't go and take water again. That's it. After you've done the left hand, you turn off the faucet and you have to just wipe your head. That's it. 3 fingers. You just start from the dome of the head, from the top of the head, and you come down all the way to the hairline. This is enough. 3 fingers, you just go. If you have a lot of hair, especially from like this side of the head, it's coming here, then you have to part. You have to part your hair. If your hair is the same hair that's growing in the same area, then that is sufficient. You don't need to part it. But if for sisters, for example, just make a part the hair a little, and then you could just wipe right away. That's it. After you wipe, now you have to, Allah says in the Quran, فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم. Here's also a difference between us and the Sunni brothers and sisters. They come and they take water and they wash the whole head. The whole head, they come and they wipe it. From the ear and all over, they come and they do that. We don't do that. Zurara, one of the companions of Imam Sadiq, he asked the Imam, he tells him, why do we wipe, we the followers of the Ahl al-Bayt, why do we wipe parts of the head and not the whole head? The Imam tells him, لِمَكَانِ الْبَاءِ, because Allah says, وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ. Allah doesn't say, وَامْسَحُوا رُؤُوسَكُمْ. Right now, I could tell someone, امسح الحائط, wipe the wall. Or I could tell someone, امسح بالحائط, wipe a part of the wall. So there's a big difference. وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ means just a part of the head. This is why they say 3 fingers. If you want to do the whole all 4 fingers, that's enough. You just do that and you wipe down. That's enough. Okay? And then وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. That masah, the first is اغسلوا, wash the face and the hands. Then it goes wipe, meaning you don't take water anymore. Wipe the head and the feet. And here's also another difference between us and our Sunni sisters and brothers. What do? They wash their feet. They put the whole feet and they wash it. Now, come and tell me washing the feet is cleaner. Well, let's wash the feet. Tell you, yes, it's clean. Go wash the feet before or after the wudu. But this is a ibadah. This is a worship. God tells me do it this way. Just like I could come and tell Allah, Salat al-Fajr, I have energy today. Let me pray Salat al-Fajr 8 rak'ahs. Can I do that? No, because this is ibadah. This is worship. This is what God has ordered us to do. وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. You wipe the top of the feet. The top of the feet. That's it. You have to put your feet somewhere stable on the ground. Put it somewhere stable. And then you just wipe part of the top of the feet. That's it. That's enough. Wiping the top of the feet. Here, also, they say that when you do this, because you're wiping part of the feet, you're not wiping the whole feet. Here, Sayyid Sistani and other scholars, they say if a lady had nail polish on her toes, as long as there's one toe, which is weird, I don't know who would do that. As long as you had one toe that did not have nail polish on it, that would be sufficient. Because you have to wipe a part of the feet. وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. So as long as one toe, the big one, you leave it without nail polish and you wipe the hand on it, that is enough. So, because what's the difference between that and the hand? The hand, Allah says, اغسلوا. You have to wash the whole hand. You have to make sure water reaches everywhere of the hand. But the feet, you don't have to make sure water reaches everywhere, just the top of it. So this is what the scholars say. So here, this is regarding the wudu. Now, I left the house and I had done wudu before I left the house. Now, it's a couple of hours has passed. I don't know, do I still have wudu or do I not have wudu anymore? What's the rule? You do have wudu. There's a rule, it's called istishab. This is what they discuss in the books of fiqh, istishab. Meaning, doubt does not negate certainty. So, I was certain that I had wudu. Now I left the house, I have doubt. Did I lose my wudu? Did I not lose my wudu? I ignore the doubt and I go back to the certainty. Sometimes it could be the other way around. Sometimes I was certain I was asleep. I didn't have wudu. I woke up, I came to work, and then I came to the masjid. Did I do wudu when I left the house or did I not do wudu? Here, this time, you go that you did not do wudu because you go back to the certainty. You were certain that you did not have wudu before that. This rule comes handy a lot. When it comes to ghusl, when it comes to wudu, when it comes to tahara, this is very important. The rule of istishab. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Okay. Sallu ala Muhammad. There's another, now if you don't have water, or it's a really cold night, and you have to go out, you have to walk a mile, and there's a chance that you're going to get frostbite, there's a chance that you're going to get sick, and you're gonna have to go to the hospital and you don't have access to water. Or There's no water in the house, and you have to go and pay a big amount of money, something that is not more than average, something that is more than what a normal person can handle in order for you to get water. Here, Allah says in the Quran, if you do not have water, you do tayammum. You do tayammum. So this is only in serious cases. Sometimes you have water, for example, you just get up, you have to get up and go to the other room. No, you go. If you don't have access to water, or water is going to hurt you, it's going to cause excruciating pain or financial harm, or water is limited. You have enough water for you to drink. You don't have enough water for you to do wudu and drink. Here, you have to do tayammum. What is tayammum? Tayammum requires the niyyah as well. Niyyah because it's a form of ibadah. Then you have to have some soil. So you go to your backyard, or you take some soil and you put it in a bag in front of you. That's it. You take some soil and you put it in front of you, and you strike your arm. You strike your palm, the whole arm, you strike it on the soil. You strike it on the soil, and then the obligatory precaution is that you have to do it together at the same time. You don't do one and then you do the second. You do both at the same time, and then you wipe your arms, your palms. You take it from the forehead, from the start of the hairline. You go down all the way like this, all the way, and then you end here. That's it. So your head to your nose. You just have to make sure that you do this. That's it. You do this. This is enough. Now, after you do that, you wiping the palms of both hands over the entire forehead, from the place where the hair of the head grows to the eyebrows and above the nose. And the recommended precaution is that the palms should be wiped over the eyebrows as well. So you just have to come, make sure you do this. That's it. Once this part reaches the eyebrows, this is sufficient. Now, what's the next step? You did this. The next step is that you have to wipe the palm of the left hand over the whole of the back of the right hand. So you take the palm of the left hand and you do this. And then you take the right hand and you come and you do this. This is tayammum. Wiping the palm of the left hand over the whole of the back of the right hand, and wiping the palm of the right hand over the whole of the back of the left hand. The recommended precaution is that tayammum, whether it is in the place of wudu or in the place of ghusl, should be performed in this manner. The palms are struck on the ground once and are wiped over the forehead and the back of the hands. And then they are struck again on the ground and are wiped over the back of the hands. So the ihtiyat is that once you did this, then you strike it again, and then you do this, and then this. That's it. You don't need to wipe the feet. You don't need to do anything else. This is called tayammum. This is called tayammum. This is if you don't have water, or water is going to be harmful for you. Now, say I have water, but I have a cast on my hand, or I have a wound, or I have a break, or I have something that is like a very severe wound that is covered. If I open it, more blood is going to start gushing out, and the doctor has closed it. So here, this cast, what do? I do the ghusl. I wash my face, and then I wash the part away from the cast, the part that the cast is not covering. The place where the cast is covering, I wipe over it. I don't wash it. I wipe over it, even though the hand has to be washed. But that place where the cast or the band-aid, I just wipe over it, and that would be sufficient. This is called wudu al-jabira. Jabira means if the hand is broken, or you cannot put water on the hand because the doctor has told you, then this would be sufficient. And the same goes with ghusl. Say, for example, I have a wound. I have something that the doctor has covered on my body. Here, I could wash over that. That would be sufficient to act as wudu al-jabira. Now, if you can move it, and it's going to be like a little bit painful, annoying, but you could always put a different band-aid, then you have to remove it and wash it. But if you can't move it, then in this case, you would just do the wudu over it. Okay. Now, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Should we take a break, or you guys want to continue going? Continue? Okay. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. So now, this whole time we've been talking, this is all things that get you ready for the salah. Now, this is the steps of the salah. So some of the steps, they're called rukun. Rukun means that this is a foundation of the salah. If you do not do that, either intentionally or accidentally, you mess up in that, then you would have to redo the prayer. But there are other steps that are not rukun, meaning that I made a mistake and then I skipped and then I moved on to the next step. It does not invalidate. There's a way to fix it. We're going to talk about the sajdatay sahu, the two sajdas that are performed when there is an error that is not big enough to invalidate the prayer. You do sajdatay sahu. But if the error is big enough to invalidate the prayer, then you would have to redo the salah. So now the rukun, when we say rukun, there are 5 arkan of the salah. 5, these 5, they are called the rukun, the foundations of the salah. The niyyah, the qiyam, takbiratul ihram, the ruku' and the sujood. The ones I have on this side. And then the other ones, they are steps of the salah. I can't purposefully and intentionally neglect them. But if, for example, I made a mistake in them, it's not big enough to invalidate the prayer. So now, the first is the niyyah. The niyyah, because salah is a ibadah, salah is a worship, and the first step of any act of worship is to perform the niyyah, the intention. The niyyah is that you need to know what you're praying and who you're praying for. That's it. Am I praying dhuhr? Am I praying asr? Am I praying fajr? Am I praying mustahab? Am I praying qada? This you just need to know in your mind. You just need to know what it is that you're praying and who it's praying for. That's it. You know the niyyah, you could go and you say Allahu Akbar. I'm going to skip the mustahabbat. So you have the adhan is mustahab. The iqamah is more recommended than the adhan. So if you didn't do the adhan, don't do the iqamah. And even scholars say that if you said Allahu Akbar and you began the prayer and you realize that you did not do the iqamah of the prayer, you could break the salah, go back and do the iqamah. That's how important it is. It's so important that you're allowed to break the salah, even though we're not allowed to break the salah, you always, in any circumstance. But you're allowed to do that for the sake of the iqamah. Anyways, you do the niyyah. Now, the second is the qiyam. What does qiyam mean? Qiyam means I have to be standing when I say Allahu Akbar. I have to be standing. So this is if I'm able to stand. If I'm able to walk, I have the physical ability to stand, I have to stand and say Allahu Akbar. So you have to stand. Now here, a lot of times people, they say, oh, I can't pray while I'm standing. I have to sit on the chair. They sit on the chair and they say Allahu Akbar. You have to stand. Later on, you got tired, you can't do sujood, you can't do ruku', you sit down after. But say Allahu Akbar while you're standing. Stand, say Allahu Akbar, and then sit down if you couldn't. So this is a very important point. Or sometimes some of us in the airplane, we're praying, we can't stand, so or we can stand, but I can't do ruku' and I can't do sujood. But I could stand in my seat. So I have to stand in my seat, say Allahu Akbar, and then in the place of ruku' sujood, you sit down. That's it. It's a ibadah. You have to stand. Some people, they're on a wheelchair. They can't do sujood and ruku'. But you could stand for a few minutes. You could stand for 10 seconds. Stand, say Allahu Akbar, and then sit down. This is qiyam. This is a part of the rukun of the salah. Meaning that if you're able to stand, you have to stand. So this is one. You must be standing unless you have a legitimate excuse. The third, takbiratul ihram. What is takbiratul ihram? To say Allahu Akbar. Can I just go and stand and then say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen? No. I need to do the niyyah and I need to do takbiratul ihram. Takbiratul ihram is to say Allahu Akbar. Why does it say ihram after? Because when you say it, everything becomes haram. That's it. You're in a state of ibadah now. You can't turn around, talk, and answer your phone, do whatever you want. No, now you're in a state of worship. Put everything on hold for the sake of salah. Takbiratul ihram. And how do you do the takbirah? I see some people, they have their hands up. Allahu Akbar. No. Takbiratul ihram. You stand You have to put your hand like this. Like this. That's it. And then you raise your hand. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. That's it. You don't go like this. Some people, they stand like this and then they say Allahu Akbar. No. You go like this. Allahu Akbar. You bring it to your ears and your hands are straight. Not like this. Your hands are straight. You say Allahu Akbar and then you go down. What does this mean? Allahu Akbar. It means I'm putting everything behind me and I'm focusing on Allah right now. That's it. Allahu Akbar. You say it once. It's mustahab. It's recommended to say it either 3 times, 5 times, or 7 times. It's mustahab. So you could say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah. You could say it 3 times, 5 times, or 7 times. This is a mustahab that some people do, but it's, you don't have to do all of the istihbabat. So here, this is called takbiratul ihram. Now, the next rukun, even though there are other steps, there's the qira'ah, there's the dhikr, is the ruku'. Ruku' is the bowing. So, Salat al-Fajr has 2 rak'ahs. Salat al-Dhuhr has 4. Asr has 4. Maghrib has 3. Isha has 4. The ruku' is that you have to bow down. You put your hands, I'm going to show you guys soon. You come down, you put your hand on your knees, and you try to straighten your back as much as you can. And then you have to get up and stand after the ruku'. Some people, they do the ruku' and then they go down to the sujood right away. The ruku' requires a standing after, and you have to stand for a couple of seconds. You stand and then you go down to the sujood. If you don't stand, then that ruku' is batil. You need to make sure that you are doing it correctly. So now, this is the ruku', and in the ruku' you say Subhana Rabbi al-Azimi wa bihamdih, or you say Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. That would be sufficient. And then the sujood. Sujood, when we say sujood is rukun, it means 2 sajdas. So say, for example, you did sujood, but you only did sajda once, and then you got up, you made a mistake. Does that invalidate the prayer? Does that invalidate the prayer? No, it doesn't. But if you added 2 or you missed out 2, that would invalidate the prayer. But if you did one and you forgot the other, there's a way to fix it. You do sajdatay sahu after. But when we say the sajda, we mean 2 sajdas are missing. That would invalidate the prayer. But if you didn't do the ruku', you're standing and you went straight you dove to the sujood, then that would invalidate the prayer. You skipped one of the rukun, which is the ruku'. Now there are other mandatory steps where if you intentionally skip them, it makes the salah batil. But if you made a mistake in them, you didn't do it correctly, it's not big enough to invalidate the prayer. One is the qira'ah, the recitation of the Quran. After you say Allahu Akbar, you have to recite Surah Al-Hamd, Surah Al-Fatiha, and another surah, a short surah. And you cannot recite Surah Al-Azaim. The Azaim are the 4 surahs that have the wajib, the obligatory sujood in them. You cannot recite those. And you could recite any other surah, short or long. But if it's long, if the surah is so long that it's going to make the time of the prayer become qada, you can't do that. I know some of you guys like to recite really long surahs when you pray. So this, you can't do that. I'm just kidding. All of you guys recite Qul Huwallahu Ahad, right? No, we're all guilty of that. It's mustahab sometimes to recite a little bit longer surahs. At morning time, for example, recite some of the surahs in Juzu' Amma, the longer ones, and Juzu' Tabarak. And you could even have a Quran in front of you. You could read from it. It's nice to, strengthen our relationship with the Quran and recite the Quran and memorize the Quran. So the qira'ah of the surah, Al-Fatiha and another surah. Our Sunni brothers and sisters, they don't have that reciting a full surah is wajib. They could recite Ayatul Kursi. They could recite a few verses. That is sufficient for them. We have that a full surah has to be recited. Second, the dhikr. In the 3rd and 4th rak'ah, what do we say? Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar. And then it's mustahab to say astaghfirullah. You could say that once. That once is sufficient. But sometimes people, the imam, he tells them, say it 3 times. Even though once is sufficient. Why should we say it 3 times? Because we don't even understand what we're saying when we're saying it once or twice. We need to say it a few times because some of us were so fast in our prayer. Subhanallah, alhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah, Allahu akbar. What are you going to understand from that? Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar 3 times. This is in the 3rd and 4th rak'ah. And then you have the tashahhud. After the 2nd rak'ah, you do the tashahhud. And the tashahhud is to say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wahdahu la sharika lah. Or you could say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. That would be enough as well. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. This is the tashahhud. All Muslims, Sunni and Shia, they say salawat upon the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. All of you say salawat. Then in the last, to exit the prayer, in the second rak'ah of the morning prayer, like a 2 rak'ah prayer, or in the 3rd rak'ah of the Maghrib, or in the 4th of the Dhuhr, Asr or Isha, you do, in addition to the tashahhud, you do the salam, and you say Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi, this is an addendum, an add-on to the tashahhud actually. The real salam is to say Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillah as-salihin. You've exited the prayer. And then it's mustahab to also say Assalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, you're done with the prayer. This is a mustahab. This is a recommended act to be done as soon as you finish the prayer, to say Allahu Akbar. So you're out of the prayer when you say Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillah as-salihin, you've exited the prayer. You could, if you had to go, you could turn around and go. But it's really mustahab to say Assalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, and then you're done. Another condition in the prayer is tartib. So I can't skip parts. I can't do sujood before the qira'ah, or do the ruku' after something. These are, you can't skip. And the muwalat, continuous, uninterrupted. I can't just say Allahu Akbar and then just stand like this. When someone looks at me, they're like, what is this guy doing? And I need to look like I'm praying. So it needs to be uninterrupted, one after the other. Now, is the qunut a part of the salah? No, it's mustahab. It's recommended. If you're short on time, you don't have time to do qunut, you don't have to. But it's highly recommended. It's not something that like, oh yeah, the Sayyid said we don't need to do it, then let's not do it anymore. No, it's something that is highly recommended. Okay. Now there are things that invalidate the prayer. There are certain things, can you go to the next slide please? There are things that invalidate the prayer. One is not complying with the mentioned prerequisites of prayer. So the tahara, your body needs to be clean, you need to be in a state of purity, and what you're praying on needs to be tahir. I can't be doing sujood on something najas. I can't be praying in a house that I stole. This is called ghasab. I need to pray on something that belongs to me or something that I have permission to pray on. These are all prerequisites of prayer. My clothes have to be tahir. If you went to school and you used the bathroom and you didn't wash yourself correctly, your underclothes will become najas. So you have to go and change that. You can't pray with something that is najas. Second, losing the wudu. If you've lost the wudu, you can't pray. Whatever it was, you need to go and do wudu once again. Takfir. Takfir is called folding the hands of the prayer. In our belief, folding the hands of the prayer on purpose, and you're not afraid for your life, you're not in taqiyya mode, someone is watching you, they're looking at you, that will invalidate the prayer. Why? Because the Prophet did not fold his hand when he prayed. It's as obvious as that. Rasulullah says, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli. Pray the way you saw me pray. And today, by the way, even in the Sunni school of thought, they don't see folding the hand as a mandatory part of the salah. It's mustahab, it's sunnah for them. And the Maliki Sunnis, they put their hand down. They don't fold their hand. So it's even amongst them, there's no unanimous opinion that says it's a part of the salah, because they know the Prophet did not do it. So some they say, oh, add it on, it's mustahab. But the Imam al-Baqir and Imam Sadiq, they told their companions, don't do that. That will invalidate the prayer unless you're in a place where they have a a sword over your head and they're going to kill you if you don't. Then over there, this is taqiyya, you could do whatever you want. This is called takfir, folding the hands of the prayer. Turning the body in the prayer. Can I say Allahu Akbar and then I'm reciting and then I just turn around, hey guy, do something? I can't do that. You can't turn your body, you're in a state of ibadah. That's it. You have to stand like a slave in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Talking in prayer. Talking. Someone came, hey, close the door. Kids, be quiet, I'm praying. Can you do that? You can't do that. Now here, saying Ameen. Saying Ameen, our scholars, they say, if you're just saying Ameen because everyone's saying it, that will invalidate the prayer unless you say it with the intention of, oh Allah, accept my prayers. It's with the intention of dua. Because Ameen, what it means is, it means Allahumma stajib. Oh Allah, answer my prayers. So, the Prophet did not say that. And our fuqaha, they say, if you were to say it on purpose, that is like talking in prayer. You can't talk in prayer. You read Quran. You're allowed to read Quran in prayer. You can't talk in prayer. So Ameen is not a word in the Quran, and you're saying it. Unless you're saying it with the intention of dua, because you're allowed to do dua in prayer. So in my qunut, I say, oh, Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana, or even if it's not a verse in the Quran. Now, Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana is a verse in the Quran. I could recite dua kumail in my qunut. Or even scholars say you could do qunut in another language. You could speak in your language in the qunut. As long as it's with the intention of dua, you're talking to God and you're asking God, it would be okay. So if Ameen is also like that, it's with the intention of dua, it would be okay. But if it's just to say Ameen, it's talking in prayer, it invalidates the prayer. Sixth, laughing loudly in the salah. Sometimes you might see something funny happen and you start laughing. If you smiled, it would be okay. But if you start chuckling and you start laughing, then that will invalidate the prayer, because if someone looks at you, they're going to be like, is this guy praying or laughing? If they say he's laughing, then you're laughing in prayer, that will invalidate the prayer. Crying for a worldly matter, crying for dunya. The stock market collapsed and I'm crying. Now if I'm crying for the akhirah, if I'm crying for Jahannam, I'm crying out of fear of Allah, when I'm reciting the Quran, there's nothing wrong with that. That's good. Allah says, Sujjadan wa bukiya. The mu'mineen, when they hear the Quran, they do cry. It does make them emotional. But you're crying for a worldly thing. A relative passed away and I'm crying in my prayer. I have to stop because this is a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Eighth, movements that are not a part of the prayer, like clapping, dancing, jumping, doing things that are not a part of the prayer, this cannot be done. Eating and drinking cannot be done in the prayer. Now, doubting in a 2 rak'ah prayer. If you're in Salat al-Fajr, a 2 rak'ah prayer, you doubt, which rak'ah am I on? Salah becomes batil. Or doubting between the 2nd and the 3rd rak'ah of Salat al-Maghrib. If you doubt in the 2nd or 3rd, that also invalidates the prayer. Or in the first 2 rak'ahs of a 4 rak'ah prayer. Salat al-Dhuhr, I doubt in the first 2 rak'ahs. Am I in the 2nd or the 1st or the 3rd or the 4th? Salah becomes batil. Now, if I doubt, hold on a moment. Hold on, think. Try to think hard where you're at. If you really are really doubtful, you don't know what, you're really confused where you're at, salah becomes batil. If it's in these steps. But if you have doubt, can you go to the next slide, please? If you're in a doubt, so if you doubt in a 2 rak'ah prayer, I took this from the Imam website. It gives you a drawing of what you do when you doubt, in a state of doubt. So if here doubt and a shak for salah, this is a very important issue. If you're doubting in a 2 rak'ah prayer, as I mentioned earlier, wherever, 1st or 2nd, salah becomes batil. If you're doubting in a 3 rak'ah prayer, salah becomes batil. If you're doubting in the first 2 rak'ahs of a 4 rak'ah prayer, salah becomes batil. But then there are times where there's things to do if you're doubting in the 3rd or 4th. and or second or third of a 4 rak'ah prayer, then there's ways to deal with the doubt. So here I'm going to go through it quickly, and then I could share this with you so that you could see it and you could take a look at it, because I know the screen is not very clear. So whether you're doubting in the second or third rak'ah of a 4 rak'ah prayer, what do? I'm praying a 4 rak'ah prayer. Salatul Dhuhr, I don't know, it's the second or the third rak'ah. What do? You consider it the third. You consider it the third, and then you do another rak'ah. So the third, you have to do the fourth. You get up, you do the fourth, and then once the salah is over, you get up and you pray 1 rak'ah. After you say Allahu Akbar, you get up and you pray 1 rak'ah. So now if you're doubting if it's the second or the fourth rak'ah of a 4 rak'ah prayer, what do? Whether it is the second or the fourth unit after commencing the sajda, you consider it the fourth. You consider it the fourth, you end the prayer, and then you get up and you do another 2 rak'ah prayers. So that just in case, if it was the 4th rak'ah, you didn't add a rukun, you didn't add another ruku' to your salah. And if it was not, then you've got up and you've done another 2 rak'ah prayers, so you're fine either way. So this is how you deal with the shak. Now, you doubt whether it is the second, third, or fourth unit after commencing the second prostration. So you've done the second sajda, then you got up and now you don't know. You're at the second, the third, or the fourth. You might be very confused at this time. If you don't know whether it's the second or the third or the fourth, you consider it the fourth unit. Then you complete the prayer, and then you perform 2 rak'ahs. 2 rak'ah units, precautionary prayer in standing position, followed by 2 units in sitting. Because when you do 2 rak'ahs while sitting, that counts as 1. So that would mean as if you were in the third. And then if you were really in the fourth, you finish the prayer. If you were in the second, you did another 2 rak'ahs after you finished. And if you were in the third, you did 2 rak'ahs while sitting, which counts as 1. So in either case, you have fulfilled what needs to be done. Now, if you doubt between the 4th or the 5th rak'ah, whether it's the 4th or the 5th unit after commencing the second sajda, consider it the 4th unit, complete the prayer, and then perform 2 prostrations of sajdatay sahu. Now, sajdat as-sahu is not always done. Between the 4th or the 5th, you finish the prayer. You finish the prayer. If it was 4th, then you're fine. But if it was the 5th, you've done sajdat as-sahu. This is done anytime you forget. I'm not going to continue this because it gets confusing, but the chart is here and you could always refer to it. Now we go to the next slide. Okay, we're almost finishing up. Is the pizza here? Almost. Okay, then there's nothing to worry about. So mistakes in the rukun, doing a mistake in the rukun. We mentioned the 5 arkan. If you do a mistake either on purpose or on accident, that invalidates the prayer. That's it. For example, I prayed the Maghrib prayer. Instead of 3 rak'ahs, I prayed it 2 rak'ahs. Or I missed 2 of the sajdas. That will invalidate the prayer. Now, other mistakes, doubts, if it's not rukun, it could be fixed. If someone intentionally does a non-rukun mistake, for example, I intentionally did not read the Quran correctly. I messed up in the qira'ah. It's not rukun. But I intentionally I spoke. Intentionally I started chewing gum. Intentionally I did something that invalidates the prayer. Because you're intentionally. But if it was an accident, then there's a way to deal with it. Now, this is a very important rule, my dear brothers and sisters. After the prayer is over, if the error was accidental and non-rukun, it can be ignored. Now there's a qa'ida, there's a principle. It's called qa'idatul faragh. Please pay attention to this. I know this is getting long, but this is very important. This is a rule that Imam al-Sadiq taught us. Just like istishab. Istishab could be, it could save you a lot of headache. This is also very important. Qa'idatul faragh. So you doubt in whether the action was performed correctly. After you move on to the next step, you consider it correct. So say, for example, I did the ruku', I went down to the sajda, then I say, did I do my ruku' correctly? I doubt. Now that you've passed on, that's it. You consider it done correctly. Then I did the recitation. Then once I go down to the ruku', I say, did I read correctly? I say, yes. That's it. Once I've moved on to the next step, if I'm certain I made a mistake, then I have to, if it was a rukun, it makes it batil. But I'm doubting. Or I'm doubting whether I said, for example, I did something important in the salah or not. I've moved on to the next step. I consider it done. I washed my hands in the wudu. Then I go on to wipe my head. And then once I wipe my head, I realize, did I wipe my hand all the way or not? That's it. I've moved on. Qa'idat al-faragh. You move on. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam narrated from Muhammad ibn Muslim an al-Baqir. Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, he says, كل شيء شككت فيه مما مضى فامضه كما هو أي اعتبره صحيحا. Anything that you've passed on but you had doubts in, after you passed on it, that's it. You consider it, it's good. Right now, today I come and I say, today I prayed. Did I pray correctly today or 3 hours ago? Sometimes shaitan plays with us this way. That's it. If you during the time you didn't have any doubt, now that you moved on, you don't go back to that. There's another qa'idah. It's called qa'idat al-tajawuz, meaning passing on. This qa'idah, you doubt whether you performed an act after you move on to the next step, you consider it done. So did I, for example, I'm in my sujood. I say, did I read the second surah when I was standing, or did I skip it? Now it's too late. Qa'idat al-tajawuz. Now you move on. The Imam, Sahihat Zurara an Imam al-Sadiq. Zurara asks Imam al-Sadiq. Imam al-Sadiq says, إذا خرجت من شيء ودخلت في غيره فشكك ليس بشيء. If you finish something and you move on to the next step and you doubt in what was already behind you, you ignore that shak. You ignore that doubt. So after the prayer is over, it must be repeated only if the mistake was a rukun. Only if I say, for example, I did not do 4 rak'ahs, I did 3 rak'ahs. I skipped 2 sujoods. An error in the rukun, the 5 arkan, it needs to be made up, or one of these 5 things happened. And this goes back to a hadith from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. Sahihat Zurara and Abi Ja'far. Zurara, the companion of Imam al-Sadiq, he asks Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam. The Imam, and this is a very important rule, he says, لا تعاد الصلاة إلا من 5. You do not make up the prayer except if 5 things, like time of prayer is over. A year ago, this is how I was praying. And these 5 things, an error in one of these 5 things, I have to redo it. If it's not these 5 things, then the qa'idat al-tajawuz and qa'idat al-faragh apply. I don't need to make it up. It has to be one of these 5 things. There was an error in one of these 5 things. What are they? لا تعاد الصلاة إلا من 5. الطهور. This is why we mentioned wudu and ghusl as a prerequisite. If there was a problem with your wudu and ghusl in the years back, scholars, most of them, they say you have to make up the prayer unless you went, you looked, you tried to learn, and you learned something. For example, someone taught you something differently. It's not that you were negligent. It's not that you were careless. Someone taught you something differently, then in this case, you wouldn't have to make it up. But I didn't care. I was praying without ghusl, for example. I was praying without wudu. Not because someone taught me differently, but because I was negligent to go and search for the truth, I would have to make it up. لا تعاد الصلاة إلا من 5. الطهور. الوقت. Praying before the time. Al-Qibla. Praying over 180 degrees away from the Kaaba. Al-Ruku' was-Sujud. An error in the Ruku'. Not doing the Ruku' correctly. Or missing 2 of the sajdas. These are the cases where the prayer must be repeated. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I know you guys are tired because I'm tired too. But anyways, we have to finish this inshallah. Sajdatay sahu. So now we mentioned sometimes the prayer, not always you need to make up the prayer. If it was a rukun or in these 5 things, the tahur, the waqt, the qibla, the ruku' and the sujood, prayer has to be made up. But sometimes, for example, I didn't recite correctly. I started speaking in salah. I did something, I stood where I'm supposed to sit. I did some of these errors that are not big enough. They're not rukun, they're not big enough to take me out of prayer. Here it could be solved with sajdatay sahu. Sajdatay sahu is after you finish the prayer, and you realize you made a mistake that is not big enough to invalidate the prayer, but it was a mistake in the salah, after you say the tashahhud and the salam, you do a sujood. You go down to sujood. In the sujood, you say Bismillah wa billah wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alih, or Bismillah wa billah assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh in your sajda. And then you get up and then you do another sajda, two sajdas. It's sajdatay, two sujoods. You go down, you do another sajda. Bismillah wa billah assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And then you sit, you do the tashahhud. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته, and you're done. When do you do this sajdatay sahu? It's done when you're speaking in the prayer. Accidentally you spoke in the prayer. That doesn't invalidate your salah. If you accidentally spoke, if you spoke on purpose, salah is batil. Accidentally, you're like, close the door. You forget, or someone is calling and you're like, answer the phone. By accident, not on purpose. If it's on purpose, it invalidates the prayer. By accident, sometimes you say things. If you said that, then it would, you do the sajdatay sahu. You say the tashahhud and the salam in the wrong place. Sometimes this happens. Sometimes we're sitting, we're like, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan, and then we're like, oh, we have to get up, for example. You do that in the wrong place, sajdatay sahu. Forgetting one sajda. What happens if you forget two sajdas? What happens? Salah is invalid because it's a rukun. Two sajdas are a rukun. But if you miss one sajda, then it would be okay. Doubt in fourth rak'ah or fifth rak'ah. Remember we mentioned adding another, because if it's the fourth rak'ah, you would have ended it. If it was the fifth, then you might have added something to the prayer. So you do sajdatay sahu. Standing in place of sitting or sitting in place of standing. Any addition or shortage in prayer, that does not invalidate it. Anytime you add something or you take something out of the salah. So this is sajdatay sahu. Now, we're almost done. All missed prayers must be made up. I didn't pray when I was young, or I wasn't praying with correct wudu, I wasn't praying correctly. I have to make it up. This is a dain. This is something that Allah will ask me for on the Day of Judgment. And we all will stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everyone, doesn't matter my name, doesn't matter how much money I have in my bank account, all of this stuff won't matter anymore. وَكُلَّ إِنسَانٍ أَلْزَمْنَاهُ طَائِرَهُ فِي عُنُقِهِ وَنُخْرِجُ لَهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ كِتَابًا يَلْقَاهُ مَنْشُورًا. Everyone will see their book in front of them, their own book of deeds. I will stand in front of Allah. I'm not going to have to answer for you or someone else. I have to answer for myself. We all have to make sure that our account is straight with Allah. And the heaviest thing on the scale is your salah. You have to make sure that your salah is done. Not only done, but done properly. So all missed prayers must be made up. If you're unsure how many missed prayers you made, you have. Do I have 5 years or do I have 5 years and a half? You do what you're certain of. For example, I'm certain I missed 5 years. Now, another 6 months, no, I'm not really sure about that. Just do what you're certain of. Do the minimum. Second, a missed prayer should be made up the way it was missed. I was traveling, salah was qasr. I have to make it up as the way I missed it. I came back home after my trip and there was still 10 minutes left to the salah until it becomes qada. Salah became a full prayer now because I came home after my travel. I have to make it up in the full. The prayer must be done in order. So that means I'm making up prayers in the past. I can't just do subuh, only the morning prayer. I have to do subuh, and then if I can't do asr before dhuhr. For example, yesterday I didn't pray. Let me right now just pray the asr prayer and then I'll pray the dhuhr before it. No, you have to do, these are consecutive ones. Dhuhr must come after asr. Dhuhr comes before asr and maghrib comes before isha. They're grouped together, so they have to be done together. Is it okay to switch intentions from a current prayer, hadira, to a missed prayer? So right now, it's maghrib time. But I realized that I didn't pray asr. I forgot to pray asr. And there's still enough time. Maghrib is not going to be late for me. I still have plenty of time to do maghrib. I'm already at the, for example, second rak'ah. Or at the third rak'ah. Because I haven't gone past the step where it's too late to go back. I could get up and do the Asr prayer. Change the intention to Asr. Once I finish the Asr, then I go back to do the Maghrib prayer. But if Maghrib prayer's time of Maghrib prayer is going to end, say I'm doing Isha prayer. Time of Isha prayer is going to end. I only have 2 minutes left until midnight. I can't switch my niyyah now. You could only switch from a hadra to a fa'ita, from a prayer that is now to a prayer that has missed, if you have enough time and your current prayer does not become late. Another very important point, the eldest son, if I passed away and I have not prayed, it is based upon obligatory precaution that the eldest son has to make up the prayers for me. Ihtiyat wujubi. And for the mother, based upon recommended precaution that the son has to make up for the mother. Now, I don't know why this. Some people, they say the person, he didn't pray his whole life, now the son has to do it. This is God. This is the order of Allah. At the end of the day, they're your parents. Say I have to make up for my parents, but I'm tired, I have work, I have so many things. You could pay someone, they come and they make it up for you. And this is the end of the slideshow. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So we're going to take a few minute break. There's the pizzas here. And then I'm going to come here. We're going to demonstrate the salah. And we will answer any questions that you may have. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi at-tahirin.